Well, hey, Gary, the Yankees didn't get Juan Soto, but at least they got a fourth round compensatory pick.
Unfortunately, we don't really know what to do with those. Anyway.
No, I mean, not to make this about Rob Manfred, but a fourth rounder.
Yeah, you know what's actually kind of crazy about this situation? For those of you who don't know, Juan Soto has decided that he's going to sign with the New York Mets. We're talking a 15-year, no deferrals, $765 million contract. That is $51.5 million a year. It's a lot of money. And when I heard the offer from the Yankees, and that offer was 16 years, $760 million. So I guess from the outside looking in, it sounds like $10 more million, and it is, but that is kind of stocked down to $47.5 million a year. It's a lot of money to be a Yankee for your life. And it's $5 million different. It is. So I think the takeaway right now is obviously there are a ton of emotions and people are going to be feeling pissed off. Rightfully so. You offer almost $800 million to a player, and for that player not to return, you have to imagine he didn't want to be there, which is fine. This is part of the business. It's the unfortunate reality that sometimes players will go for the extra dollar, and you can't necessarily say, oh, it's coping, it's being upset. This is the reality of the business. You can lose players over money. Money is serious in this world. So yeah, it definitely stings. And at this point, you have to wonder what's next for the Yankees, because there are outfielders like Teoscar Hernandez, who I know I mentioned about a month ago that this is a player that the Yankees should be looking at just in case Juan Soto decides to depart. He has now. And the Yankees can't just sit around and sulk. The time is now. Winter meetings is today. It's happening. So Scott Boras did his job. He went out and got the most money possible. It's a ton of money, broke the all-time record, richest player in the history of baseball. And you have to imagine that record's going to stand at least for a bit. It's a lot of money. So yeah, I don't, Jake, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, let's start off by saying this, and I don't think this is too crazy. I just feel as though this is why when you talk about, what the Yankees have in Monument Park, when you have your Reggie Jacksons and you have Aaron Judge will be out there, those guys care just a little bit more than just money. And I think that they deserve their credit for that reason. And
sure.
I think Juan Soto has separated himself as somebody that is a mercenary, and that is what he's going to be known as. This early on in his career, there's a reason why he's already played for his fourth team now. Do I appreciate his time with the Yankees? Absolutely. He's a big reason, probably one of the biggest reasons they got over the hump to go to the World Series. But let's be honest here. He didn't want to be there. And to be honest with you, I don't want players like that. And I got to give credit to my father, because I actually backed Juan Soto. And after the game, when they lost the World Series, and Juan was kind of like, yeah, everybody's involved in all 30 teams. My door's open for everybody. And I was just like, yeah, that's his right. That's just something he's really coached. We talked about that. He's really coached up by, his team and obviously, Scott Boras. And my dad said, no, I thought that was a dick thing to say. Right after, the Yankees, they suffer that loss, and, their fans suffer that loss. And you come out and you said, yeah, welcome free agency. Like, not even like a second.
Who else did that, by the way, is Garrett Cole. I don't know if you remember, but when Garrett Cole became this time around, so when he became a free agent from the Houston Astros, Garrett Cole, in his post-game press conference, because I believe he didn't pitch. He was supposed to come out of the bullpen, and that did not happen. He wore a Scott Boras Corporation's hat during post-game.
Yeah.
So if you want to really know what type of clients you're dealing with, I can't get upset at players to go take more money. All I take it as is when people say, oh, do you want to be a Yankee or not? And a player takes more money and goes somewhere else. I take it as a divorce from the organization. This is not a situation where everybody has to agree with what we say. Oh, why wouldn't you want to become a Yankee? Well, some people that doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
For some players,
care.
It doesn't actually matter. Remember, Derek Jeter becomes a free agent. He asked Brian Cashman one simple ask. just please don't go public with these offers. What did the Yankees do? They did exactly that, right? They made the business side of the game ugly. Now, Derek Jeter could have left the Yankees and gotten a lot more money over his career, but he chose not to. All players aren't going to be Derek Jeter. All players aren't going to return and want to be the captain of the Yankees the way Aaron Judge was. There are a lot of players who would have left and played with the Giants. There are going to be players that play for this team that leave the way Juan Soto just left. It's our job to build an organization that players want to leave for. So very disappointing. Again, it's about landing on our feet here. And you have to remember, Jake, and I'm going to steal your idea from Yamamoto. And you talked about Yamamoto not coming to the Yankees, which is absolutely his right. A lot of people said he's going to go to the Dodgers. Perfectly fine by us. It's the business. Well, that money was never spent. It was presumed that money was going to be spent on Juan Soto. Hal Steinbrenner, at least from my perspective, he actually showed up here. When you're talking about offering $760 million, I'm not going to look at my owner like he came up short. But now is the time. You have to remember that money was not spent now. $760 million was
you
declined.
Did take my idea.
I took your idea. That money, respect to Hal Steinbrenner, says DC Live in the chat. You've got to pivot and spend money. Don't just waste money, but there are players to be taken in free agency right now that the Yankees at this point have to have if they want any chance in 2025. So I'm curious, Jake, what you think about what the Yankees should do at this point. I'm assuming it has a lot to do with Corbin Burns at the top of free agency. I'm assuming maybe Santander is an option, right? This is a 30-year-old player. His WAR was 6 in 2024. Teoscar Hernandez, right? This is a 32-year-old. You never know how long that contract could potentially be. But yeah, it's definitely tough. I cannot sit here on our podcast and lie to people and say, well, not that big of a deal to lose a player like this, right? What a waste of money. 700 and it's a generational player. When you lose a player of this talent, regardless of what he was paid to go elsewhere, it definitely stings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I want to give a shout out to Jeff J, who, totally just was on this, because this is, I can't stress enough. George Steinbrenner today, I know they didn't get it done, but he is so proud looking down on his son, Hal. Hal went the distance. You can't just match what the Mets did. You have to actually have, because if you match, the Mets are going to offer this, and then it's just going to keep going. So there has to be a stop, because we talked about how Cohen has this unlimited thing. And really, the reason why I felt Soto 90% sure was going to be a Yankee. The reason why, it's very simple. Because I thought he wanted to be a Yankee. And there were a lot of reports that came out it wasn't going to go to the highest bidder. Actually, if he's in the ballpark, the Yankees are the favorite. And that was proven not to be true today. And I also want to say this. If anybody wants to give him the excuse of, well, Scott Boras did that. No. You're a grown man. You picked the Mets. That's not on Scott Boras. Scott Boras, his entire job is to get you the best deal. But if you say no, he can't just say, yeah, we agree to terms, because guess what? His client has to sign the damn contract.
Jose Altuve is represented by Scott Boras. Jose Altuve could have made more money outside of Houston.
Jose Altuve is the guy that you want, because Jose Altuve is going to show some loyalty to your organization.
Right. The issue is that the Yankees need a place to pivot. Now, that's the question, is where do people, because this is exactly what people said was the issue when you say, okay, Gleyber Torres is out, Rizzo is out, Clay Holmes is now signed as a starter for the Mets. There are a lot of moving pieces here. It's not just about Juan Soto, in which we all agree, but now all that money can be spread around. I'm not saying this is a positive, because it is not, because I have always been consistent. You've got to go sign Juan Soto first. Obviously, we put up a valiant effort to do it. Didn't happen, but even if we got the player, we still had to do more. So now it's time to get busy. I know the Yankees are involved. I know you were texting me about it, in Garrett Crochet. That's a big-time arm. That's a 25-year-old power left-hander. You've been on it for months.
No. You've been on it. You're the
I've been on it?
Yes, you're the one. See, that's what I don't know if that got lost in translation when I was texting.
I talk a lot, so.
But you called this early on. You're like, you know what? I think the Yankees are going to try. I think it was I don't know if you said Spencer Jones, but you did say Garrett Crochet. Yeah. You thought that they would get him in the offseason. So
yeah, I said Spencer Jones would be traded. Yeah. And if you go get Garrett Crochet, of course it's a huge help to your rotation. It's a big time arm, but there's no glossing over that we need to find a way offensively to not just replace Juan Soto. You need to replace the second half of what you saw out of Gleyber Torres. Now, the Yankees are going to be, when Caleb Durbin, a lot more athletic and fundamentally sound, but you still need offense. You still need to hit. We still need offensive presence to protect Aaron Judge, who, frankly, is not a young player. We need to win now. So we need to probably catch up on some super chats. Have we read this one that's on the screen?
We did. All credit to Hal for going 760
Thank you,
million
Jeff.
in his pursuit. Sounds like that $300K a year extra was the deciding factor. Congratulations to Cohen. I have no interest in that player anymore. I agree. I mean, Juan Soto, if he left the Yankees, he was going to be hated. If he went to the Red Sox, I think it's the only thing that makes it worse. But it's the way. I think a lot of people were fine. If Cohen goes to $800 million and Hal says 760, it is what it is. But to be that close, he is going to get booed to all hell at Yankee Stadium. And you know what? Rightfully so. I don't boo people. I won't boo Juan Soto. I don't know if I'll go to Yankees Mets, but I don't.
He's going to be booed to hell.
To hell.
Yeah, I know. And rightfully so, right? You have to accept that type of treatment. It's sports. At the end of the day, it's the circus. This isn't life or death. This isn't war. Yeah. It's baseball. So, I mean, when he shows up at the Yankee Stadium, I expect he's going to be enemy number one.
People thought it was the end of the world when Robinson Cano left. And it wasn't, they didn't necessarily win anything since, but it wasn't the end of the world.
In hindsight, that ended up being pretty good, didn't it?
Oh yeah. That did not age well. That contract was terrible. Seattle was like, why did we do this? I guess he really wanted to grow facial hair that bad. So I don't know.
There are a lot of players that feel that way, though.
I'm agreement. I mean, I'm a facial hair guy, and so are you. So I understand. I think
this is my wife's thing. She doesn't let me go clean shaven. But we have and by the way, guys, if you're here from Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, please stop over at YouTube. And if you're at YouTube and you're discovering us today, please make sure you like the video and subscribe. Yes. We appreciate you being here. We have a super chat from Stockton. He says, don't even think about going for Teo Hernandez. The Dodgers are an aggressive unit. There's a reason they're champions.
They interested, by the way.
In who?
I saw the Yankees earlier. They're interested in Teo Hernandez.
I did hear that, but it makes so much sense. Think about the fit. The Yankees love veterans, and I'm not saying that the Dodgers are going to lose this player and we're going to get him, but there's reason for us to be interested in this player. Jason Dominguez, as far as I'm concerned, is a center fielder. Now that Juan Soto is no longer a Yankee and never will be, Aaron Judge is going back to right field. So having said that, there is a hole. Verdugo's gone. Someone needs to play left field. Well, that somebody in Teoscar Hernandez rakes. And not only does he hit well, this is a player that destroys left-handed pitching. Do you know what the Yankees were atrocious at in 2024? Hitting left-handed pitching. It was a problem. So he fixes a few issues. Is he the only solution this offseason? No, absolutely not. There are plenty of ways the Yankees could go, but that's a pretty good option.
I'm like annoyed with how this camera is because my monitor, the clamp, it like fell. So I had to literally lift the camera like way up, like all the way up.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's like, bruh. That's why I look so small. Like I'm not like up here, but but yeah, I think Hernandez is in play. Let's see here. Cody Bellinger will probably be a Yankee by the end of tomorrow, I would say.
And I'm assuming you're planning on him being the starting first baseman, which defensively.
No, I don't think so.
Where do you think he's playing?
I think Pete Alonso is going to be the starting first baseman.
The Yankees?
Yeah. Oh, you want to take our guy? Well, we'll take yours. I mean, he's not as good, but
that's like the worst. And by the way, Pete Alonso is a very good player. I'm sure our chat would hate the idea of him signing with the Yankees. And the only way that'd be undone if he's playing well for us. Yeah. But again, that trade-off, Pete Alonso for Juan Soto, is not a good one. So I'm going to need a bit more.
I agree. This right here, Fishman432, thank you for this super chat. Exactly. Best fans I've played for, and then he leaves for $5 million. I mean, you leave Aaron Judge, you leave Garrett Cole, you leave a team you went to the World Series with to go to the Mets.
It's a weird look for sure.
As Derek Jeter says, they're the Mets.
You know what he's going to say, by the way?
Oh, he's going to call him out. I already know it.
I think Juan Soto is probably going to say that he's going to talk about farms. I think he's going to talk about farm systems and maybe young team, energetic owner. It's going to be, he's going to be hated. Bronx.
I think. Is there a player that's ever that was hated more? Like, I mean, I think like the expectation, because I'm a pretty reasonable guy.
Yeah.
And I don't hate anybody, like actually hate, but sports hate, Juan Soto might get there for me because it's going to be really annoying seeing him everywhere in that Mets uniform. And again, like sports hate, like, I don't know. That might even be a little far, but I'm just kind of like,
it's not real hatred. I mean, it's the idea of LeBron fans, Jordan fans, they hate each other. It's not real hate, right? It's sports hate. Jose Altuve, when he goes to Yankee Stadium, he's enemy. Yeah, he's enemy number one, right? Jose Altuve is still getting booed over the cheating scandal.
Yeah.
I still think Juan Soto is more hated right now. He shows up to Yankee Stadium. He is going to be an absolute supervillain. And obviously he made the choice to do this. So he's accepting of that reality. It's not a problem for him.
He better be. What I'll say is this. LeBron James, and I'll throw this out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it'd be funny. LeBron James was hated in Cleveland, and then he came back to Cleveland. I'm curious about the opt-out, Gary.
He also left the thing is, LeBron left Cleveland with nobody around him, a losing organization. He was just carrying them around. Juan Soto, this is baseball. We've watched Shohei Ohtani be a literal superhero in Anaheim, and it means nothing because if you don't have great teammates, you don't go anywhere. If you as a player get to the World Series, which is what all these players usually say that they're after, and then you still leave, then what's it about? We have our answer. I actually tweeted maybe about 12 hours ago, we're going to find out what's really important to Juan Soto. Is it money, winning, or legacy? There's nothing wrong with chasing money. I know everybody is probably very upset that a player is after more money per year, but reality is you can't force people to really care about winning with your team. So I'm sure he wants to win, but not as much as he wants money. Yeah,
well, I think you get what you deserve, both good and bad. And I mean, Juan Soto, he had to have known, like, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. Teo, Walker, Alonso for new bats. Yeah, Walker's definitely in play. Thank you, Leo.
Yeah.
I think Walker, there's a lot of guys that, like, maybe you and I just had kind of not even looked at, or we looked at one point, we're like, no, it's just going to be Juan Soto. And it sounded like Max Fried. I saw that report.
But did you hear the contract? By the way,
that would be a bad move. I stand by that. I would not want Max Fried.
Oh, so you haven't heard the dollar amount that they're throwing around? Have you heard that?
Million.
That would surprise me. What about? Are you not surprised that people are talking? And he's not chopped liver, but $200 million for Max Fried. If you're going to go to 200 M's or over that, at this point, you might as well go 300 and go get Corbin Burns. Why not?
If they don't get Corbin Burns after this, well, actually, you know what? It really depends on where they're at. Like, you lose Juan Soto. He's 26 years old. How are you viewing, shout out to Joseph for becoming a member.
Yeah, thank you for the membership. Appreciate that.
What is your plan of attack moving forward? Like, are you trying to keep it young? Because I feel like if Juan Soto was signed, Caleb Durbin is 100% starting at second. Now I don't know. Now they might just go, you know what? We have all this money. Let's just get a bunch of mercenaries and let's just get 1-year guys. Let's get, sign some of these guys on a 1-year deal or 2-year deal with an opt-out, and let's just go for it because we were that close last year. We're going to have to replace Juan Soto. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because the Yankees can go in a few different routes, and I don't even think the rotation is that bad, but you need guys that can pitch in the postseason, and that is something that Max Fried has proven he can't do. Otherwise, even with the injuries, I'm not against Max Fried. But also, let's keep in mind, the way people talk about him, they talk about him like he's 27 years old. He's 31. So it's not like he's super young. He's 1 year older than Corbin Burnes. So I don't know. After losing Juan Soto, I think a lot of the stuff we've seen doesn't matter now. I think now that reality is going to set in, I think Hal's going to strike quickly. And
who do you think that's for?
Well, I mean, I definitely think Pete Alonso is in play, whether people want him or not.
Okay.
I think Santander's in play. He's just not a great outfielder, but neither was Soto. And I think guys like Alex Bregman. I mean, when something like this happens, you had, pushed the idea on me that I'm okay trading for Alec Boehm and moving on from Jazz Chisholm or moving him to second or whatever. I feel like these are the type of things. If Soto comes back, they keep everything the way it is and add pieces. Now you reevaluate and you're like, do we have to tear this thing down? And, obviously tearing it down sounds ridiculous, but when you have, the money the Yankees have to spend, clearly you can. I mean, they were willing to go to $760 plus million. That's crazy to me. It's just, I don't know. I think Bregman is definitely in play. I think Jack Flaherty is in play. I think Tanner Scott, Carlos Esteves. I think Profar, although I wouldn't be really a huge fan of Profar.
No, you're buying high on Profar, and Profar is a player that
contract is going to look really bad.
It's not going to make any sense. But one thing I'm going to say, because I'm not exactly sure Brian Cashman has proven that he can essentially kill you by 1,000 cuts. It seems like right now, and he made a big time trade in trading for Juan Soto, right? And we lost Michael King over it. But having said that, there have been great organizations to lose great players, and they just land right on their feet. It's not impossible, okay, guys? And that doesn't mean this is good at all, because it is not. But Yordan Alvarez, he was traded in 2016 by the Dodgers. See you later. Traded away. And you'd think, well, that'd be a death sentence. That's probably a future Hall of Famer right there, and you'd be right. But they just land on their feet. But the one issue, the one snag here is that when teams like the Dodgers lose out on players like Yordan Alvarez, they make sure they get the player, right? And unfortunately for the Yankees, when we lost out on a couple players, we lost out on Yamamoto, we ran into Steve Cohen.
Yeah.
We ran into the Mets. And I know everybody's been saying, he's going to outbid everybody for Shohei Ohtani. He's going to outbid everybody for Yamamoto. And that didn't necessarily happen, Jake. It didn't. And I said he's got to go prove himself. Steve Cohen did that. When you put up $750 million, and Hal Steinbrenner did the same thing, you've essentially done your job as an owner. That's all you can ask for. So at this point, I know we're essentially in a position, Jake, where we have to make an aggressive play. I know you just asked me, would you go young? Absolutely not. I wouldn't. There's going to be a couple young guys, Caleb Durbin, but as far as I'm concerned, we've still got Garrett Cole rolling out to the mound in postseason games next year. We've got Carlos Rodon, hopefully, taking a mound in postseason games next year. We're not a young team. So at this point, we're already sort of at the top of the hill. You can't go back down now. Like, we're a win now organization. And at this point, all of the names that I see in our chat should be win now moves. At this point, it's okay for you to believe in one prospect here, Jason Dominguez there. That's perfectly fine. But if all of a sudden you look at third base and it's a young player, you look at second, it's a young player, left field's a young player in Spencer Jones, the Yankees probably aren't going very far. You've got to get creative here. Brian Cashman has to find ways now to be creative. Garrett Crochet is probably a very good move for the Yankees. He would be huge. But the Yankees have to hit. And they also have to get more fundamental. I will say this, because I know this seems like such a sour show so far. If there's one thing that's a positive, and this is probably the only positive for the Yankees in losing Juan Soto, literally the only one, is that the Yankees are probably going to be more fundamental in 2025. More than likely, defensively, we're going to be better. Would I prefer to have Juan Soto? Yes. 1,000 times yes. But Gleyber Torres is likely on his way out. Based on reports, he's gone, right? Anthony Rizzo, who was atrocious defensively at first base, he would not cover first base ever, right? We have Garrett Cole and him pointing at each other. Who's going to take the bag? It looks ridiculous. We, in theory, should be far more fundamental. Now, will we get to a World Series after having lost the bat of Juan Soto? I don't know. That's tough. So, I don't know. It's difficult. We just watched O'Neal go to Baltimore as well. So, teams are getting better around us. Obviously, the crosstown rival just got better. They still have moves to make in the rotation, in my opinion. And I'm not expecting them to be done, by the way. I'm expecting them to be looking at Burns. So, it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I proposed that to you.
You did.
You know, there's a real shot that, you know, Boris takes Soto and packages him with another top client, Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do you want to dip into the Soto pool again and trade for an expiring contract? I don't know. But I do think Juan Soto, I mean, we kind of already knew, and maybe we were just kind of, delusional, or maybe we were just ignoring the fact Juan Soto played for a team he won a World Series with. So the World Series didn't mean anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, he wanted out of the Nationals, and they won the World Series. So I'll say this. I think you texted me this. And I'm looking at the 2026 guys right now, and there's one name that is just screaming he's going to be maybe the best player.
Is it Vladdy Jr.?
No.
Who?
Kyle Tucker.
Oh, Kyle Tucker would be spectacular.
So my question for you, would the Astros actually trade Kyle Tucker to the Yankees?
No, probably not.
I don't think they would, but at the same time, the Astros have had the Yankees number. Why wouldn't they? You know, it's not like a Red Sox Yankees. I don't know. If they trade Kyle Tucker, I think the Yankees would be all in on that. And I think Kyle Tucker wouldn't cost $700 million, so he'd be more likely to be brought back than Soto.
What do you think of Kyle Tucker defensively? Let me ask you. I'm going to break it down, okay? And by the way, guys, for those of you who are new, make sure you guys subscribe. I see we have a new member, Luis Soto. Thank you for becoming a new member. I actually have a question for you about Kyle Tucker, because people have been asking us, how are the Yankees going to get more athletic? How are they going to be more fundamental in 2025? Bringing back Juan Soto doesn't solve those problems, right? He's a huge solution to any team, but he comes with his flaws. And just so happened, one of Juan Soto's biggest flaws was the team's overall flaw, right? Mm-hmm. So my question for you, how much better defensively is Kyle Tucker than Juan Soto?
Well, he's a Gold Glove outfielder.
He's a Gold Glove outfielder. Is he a better player than Juan Soto? Probably not. But perhaps, if it was possible, is it a better fit? I don't know. I don't know.
That lefty bat sucks, but he's still. Or no, excuse me.
He is a lefty. Yeah.
So that's funny. I was looking at right field and I threw me off. No, he is a lefty, and I think that is something that you kind of need if you're going to replace him. Not only that, he's a Gold Glove right fielder. And say what you will, we kind of turned a blind eye with Juan Soto, how poor he was defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, he cost the Yankees a lot of runs. So, I think Tucker, yeah, you're losing the 41 home runs, right? Because Juan Soto just hit, I think he hit 41.
He was sensational at the plate.
Tucker is going to be at Yankee Stadium. That's where it becomes interesting, because Tucker career-wise averages 32 home runs over a 162 game season, right? So
does he really?
Yeah. So that's interesting. 32 home runs a year.
Okay.
Is not chopped liver. So I don't know where you are on that, but personally, I think that would be better at Yankee Stadium. And I'm looking at his splits now, and let's see what he does when he's at Yankee Stadium, because I'm very curious. He Well, he doesn't hit very well at Yankee Stadium for whatever
But he
reason.
also hits against our pitching. That's the thing. Is like it's not all things are created equal. When you go play
he's got
Yankee
5
Stadium,
homers at Yankee Stadium. So
we're one of the best pitching teams in the league. We just are. So there's a reason that we've been praising Matt Blake all year. Ever since this podcast began, we've been talking about the job Matt Blake's done. So I'm not necessarily going to look at a player's numbers at Yankee Stadium and then project them as the Yankees. And by the way, guys, I don't expect the Astros to trade Kyle Tucker to us. But I will say the trade market, it's about sending somebody something that they can do something with. And it's more than likely, if you're going to get a player like that, you can kiss Jason Dominguez goodbye. You can. You are sending everything you have to this organization. And by the way, next offseason, if you do that, you can't miss. You bring the player in for a 1-year deal. Don't tell me what you got behind him. Don't tell me about Spencer Jones. Don't tell me about anybody. Ramirez, none of them matter. You have to bring in a solution. And I'm not sure if Kyle Tucker came in, I would feel like we landed on our feet. But again, guys, my expectation is not for that to happen. Not at all. I would never get on this show and say, oh, well, we can just, this isn't MLB The Show. You don't get to just trade with people just because you want to. They also have to want to. And the question is, do the Astros think we're going to re-sign this player? They have shown they'll let a star walk. We've seen it before. So very interesting choice to let Kyle Tucker go if they did. But we've seen crazier things in this game.
Yeah, and I think this list that Ed has, by the way, thank you for the super chat. I think all these guys need to be in play. Santander is interesting because if you're trying to go fundamentals, Santander can cost you in the playoffs defensively. He's really a DH. So if Giancarlo retired, okay, I think Santander's a perfect fit. But currently right now, I mean, obviously the bat is great, but his defense is horrible. So I don't know. I think
I'm not in on DHs, Jake. I'm sorry.
No. I'm not either.
Giancarlo Stanton has been spectacular for the Yankees in the postseason, right? What he does with his bat. Do I want to see another player that I'm for sure penciling in? Because people talked about this with Juan Soto. They're like, in 5 years, he's going to be a DH. Santander is going to be a DH in 2. So I want another designated DH.
He's
probably
his defensive numbers. When I looked them up, they're some of the worst I've ever seen for an outfielder. So he could play first base or whatever, but I don't think he'd be a great first baseman. I kind of feel like they're going to get Max Fried, which I don't agree with. They might.
Well, you said Pete Alonso.
I think they're going to get Pete Alonso right now.
Wow.
That's how I feel. Because Pete Alonso, I mean, think about it. This team is still going to want to add some power. I mean, they just lost 41 home runs in a season. So how do you attack that? Well, he hit 34. The only thing is he's a right-handed hitter. So you don't have that lefty bat. But we've talked about it, Gary. First base is a premium offensive position that the Yankees have been getting half-ass offense out of. I mean, you have 53 home runs his rookie year. They don't, a lot of ways, the power-wise, he was kind of like Judge the way he started. He's been dealing with some injuries, but, over the course of his career, especially 2020. But at the same time, he doesn't really miss a lot of games. He just plays banged up. And he played all 162 games last year. And, he had only 240 and had a 788 OPS, but he hit 34 home runs and was a key cog for them in the postseason.
He was clutch.
I just think that matters. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of postseason numbers, but he has 5 home runs in 16 games. He has an over 1,000 OPS. So tells me that this guy could definitely help them out. I think that is the direction they'll go in. Now, Pete Alonso, also keep in mind, he's 30. Okay. He just turned 30 yesterday. So you're not getting a 38-year-old or whatever. Christian Walker's up there, right? Like
he's 34. Christian Walker's a 34-year-old player who, by the way, his calling card is what he does defensively. But again, we watched Anthony Rizzo go from being a sure-handed defensive guy to just falling apart in the middle of that age 34, 35 season.
Exactly. Right around 34. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I will say this: his defensive runs saved was a +6 in 2023, was a -3 this year. Has kind of gone back from 1, -5, 5, -2, 6, -3. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. When you're in the -10s, now we have a problem.
Who was at -10?
I'm pretty sure Rizzo was this year. I mean, that's just bad, right? I think it was Rizzo.
No, there's no way he was a -10. That's like bringing a fan off the field. I'm sorry. There's no way that he was a -10. There's no possible way.
Looking up.
It wasn't good, but
okay. So this year he was a
-4, a +2.
He was a +2.
Oh my ass! No way.
A +2. He was a 3 the year before, and -3 the year before that. So yeah, I mean, I'm maybe underselling him, but still, he's definitely fallen off defensively.
Where did you go for this information?
Baseball Reference.
That's such an indictment on Baseball Reference. Any Yankees fan that watched, and I know Yankees fans don't create Baseball Reference, but if Baseball Reference watched the games, they wouldn't even have the nuts to tell me that he was a +2 this year. He was not. Well, I promise you guys, no way.
There's some sort of algo, but here's the problem with Alonso. He doesn't have a ton of range. He doesn't have a ton of arm strength. He's not that fast. So this would be, you're just throwing him at first base, living with the mistakes and saying this guy's hit 226 home runs in 6 years. We'll make it work.
Does that help the Yankees become more fundamental?
No. But
right, so perhaps Bellinger.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem with Bellinger is now because Soto's gone, I almost wonder if they'll use him in the outfield.
Who?
Bellinger.
Okay, well,
that's
so here's the thing.
Pushback.
If Cody Bellinger was traded for, okay, and the Chicago Cubs are, for those of you who do not know, and this is totally fine, the Cubs are trying to trade Cody Bellinger, okay? They have been very aggressive in trying to do that. Yep. Jason Dominguez spent his entire tenure in the minor leagues playing center field, not left field where he was playing for a short period with the big league team, not right field in that short porch. No, center field. So having said that, unless Jason Dominguez is traded right now for Garrett Crochet, then the Yankees need a corner outfielder. They need a left fielder. Is Cody Bellinger your left fielder? I've watched him play right field really well, and also center field. I'm not taking players out of position anymore. When you talk about a team that struggled with fundamentals, just put players in their rightful position. Stop moving around. Let's move Jazz from second to third. Glaber's going to stay, but he plays center. Let's put him in left. How about to become a more fundamental team, you sign players for the position that they actually play? And then you can have some expectation of what they do. So as far as I'm concerned, Jake, the perfect fit is probably Cody Bellinger. You allow him to play first base where he is accustomed to playing. I've watched him do it. Matter of fact, I went to high school with him. He played first base.
I want him. I thought they should have signed him when he went to the Cubs. I mean, we talked about it. We weren't doing a show yet, but
right.
But yeah, I wanted him, before he went to the Cubs. It's really interesting because there are some trade options that you hear about, like Kyle Tucker's like right now a rumor, right? And Bellinger,
right.
We're hearing about. But there's also going to be, based on free agency moves other teams make, other guys could become available. So stay tuned because there's a lot. There's a lot of work that Hal has to do. This is a significant hole, and they're going to have to fill it. And I do think they're going to go hard after Corbin Burns, because I mean, look, if you don't replace the home run power, if you don't replace the hitting, you got to at least have it equal somewhere. There's got to be balance somewhere. And if you go out and you do what the Mariners did and you build a elite rotation, but you have the hitting that the Mariners don't have, that team could be a problem. And if you're playing fundamental baseball, you might be able to knock off the Dodgers depending on how well you pitch. I mean, it's going to be a tough one,
We're not
but
even anywhere close to the Dodgers right now.
I agree with you, but at the same time, I'm like, if you say you go out and you get Garrett Crochet and you sign Corbin Burns and you have Garrett Cole, right? And you have Louis Seal and whoever the hell else at 5. I mean, you got Cortez, Stroman, who I think is going to get traded, and you got Poteet, and of course you got Clark Schmidt. So you can't tell me Crochet, Burns, Cole, Heel, and Schmidt is in a top 3 rotation in baseball. And that's where, like, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that's what's going to happen, but to the point that we were just talking about, they have a lot of money that they allocated for guys like Soto, Snell, and of course, can't forget about Yamamoto, that was never spent. And so that's where it becomes really interesting in that aspect. But I mean, again, like, we'll see. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. But Gary, that's how I see it.
Jake, by the way, we've got some people saying that you need to turn your volume up. I've seen it like twice, so it's got to be accurate.
Okay.
But
I don't know why it's
Jake,
low.
I've got to ask you because there are some takeaways. I think there are a lot of people, and we see some Mets fans in the chat as well, and they rightfully so. They should be ecstatic. Yep, sounds good. They should be ecstatic over the news. But as far as I'm concerned, looking backwards to 2024 and what the Yankees were, did you look at the lineup and say, I like this lineup 1 through 9? Were you satisfied with what they were doing 1 through 9?
Like this past year?
This past year. Were you happy when you saw the 8-hitter on the team?
I was almost satisfied. I felt like they needed another guy.
Perfect. So perfectly okay for you to feel that way. I don't know how a lot of others feel in our chat, but I was very unsatisfied with the way the lineup looked 1 through 9. I thought overall it looked like I was watching Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in a bunch of who's this guy? We spent half the year talking about how Austin Wells should be the starter for this team. And it took 5 months for it to happen. 5 months. It took a long time. We had Jose Trevino starting every other day. We were rotating back and forth, right? Anthony Volpe was atrocious for about 3.5 months there. He was bad, right? We didn't have Jazz Chisholm at third base the whole season. We had him for about a third. So when people talk about what the Yankees need to be doing, is it better to lose Soto and just spread the wealth? Probably not.
I never liked that. Yeah, I never liked that.
But the idea that the Yankees don't have a plethora of reasons and ways to get better this offseason, the Yankees needed to get better, as far as I'm concerned, at second base. Gleyber Torres was atrocious defensively. Even when he was hitting, even when his on-base was over 400 in the second half, he was spectacular offensively. He was everything the Yankees had that was an issue. We were not fundamental. We didn't run the bases hard. If you watch the Yankees, they made a ton of mistakes all day, every day, making mistakes, mental mistakes, not prepared. We don't know how. We wanted to blame management. And then eventually, Jake, you know the conclusion I came to? I think it's the players. I do. I think partially it's management and not getting guys prepared the right way. But also, if you look at right field and Juan Soto and say, is he the most fundamental player you could find in right? No, probably like a Kyle Tucker would be a lot better. How about second base? Is he as fundamental as Jose Altuve, ground ball to right field? Is he going to go first to third and be busting it out on a big leadoff? Is he going to be doing that? Oh, no, he isn't. Okay, so you have two players that have now exited stage left that are not fundamental in any way. Jazz Chisholm's an experiment at third base. Rizzo won't run over to first, right? Garrett Cole is pointing at first base. How many players can you possibly have that are failing fundamentally? When you get to the offseason and it's time, you lose a huge player in Juan Soto, who was about to make $750 million to be a Yankee, chose the Mets. You need to be spending that money on multiple players to help you accomplish what you were bad at last year. You made a World Series by being that atrocious fundamentally. Go find me players that can hit, that can also check a box fundamentally, please.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I think kind of looking at this, and we gave Boone a lot of flack. We also defended Boone quite a bit and thought most of the playoffs, Boone was spectacular, honestly. There were some of those games that he just totally missed the mark, but I thought he was really good through most of the playoffs.
Yeah, just the World Series, he was just downright dismal.
But, man, I am so tired of the cop-out, and this is, I say this all the time, they need to be more disciplined and all this, and it's like at some point or another, like blaming the coach for how grown men who literally have to perform for their job, blaming the coach feels so non-professional. Like it just doesn't feel like are we really serious right now? These guys are professional athletes. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think there was a lot of entitlement on the team. I think even it got down to Rizzo. Rizzo was a guy who would hustle. Obviously, he wasn't the fastest guy. By the end of his Yankee tenure, that dude's walking down the first.
Oh no, he was like MLB The Show Albert Pujols. His speed was 4. It was so bad.
Yeah,
and I don't know, guys. Basically, Jake, I completely agree with this point. By the way, this idea, if you asked everybody in our chat, hey, when you guys get pissed off about hustle and execution and being there mentally, being focused, right? You get paid millions of dollars to do the job. If you were a player, would you need your manager to pat you on the back and say, hey, we really need you to work hard today? We really need you to bust it down the line. I get holding people accountable, but when you hire employees that will not work hard unless you whip them, we got to pull him off the field. We've got to put him on the bench for 4 days, and we'll see you later. And then you come back and you turn it on. Is that the type of guy you want in your locker room?
No, exactly. You know what's funny? Armando says his speed is 0, but Stanton actually is trying to run. He just can't, because he's going to get hurt. So what does that tell you? The DH who makes all that guaranteed money, right? It's one of the richest contracts that the Yankees have ever thrown out there. And this dude is always putting it in. He's always giving it his all. And, in the postseason, you can tell the guy wants to win. And in the postseason, you can't always tell everybody on this team wants to win. I think guys like Jazz Chisholm were brought in to kind of add almost a new, a renewed energy almost.
Bring some juice.
And I think that's the direction they should go in. But my one concern with people just saying, now you can get a bunch of these guys. This market isn't that good. We talked about this. That's why the Soto news hurt so much. It's not like NBA free agency, right? Oh, man, we missed out on Kawhi Leonard, but you got LeBron James. Or, oh, man, missed out on Kevin Durant, but you got Steph Curry, whatever. Those level guys. There's not another Juan Soto. The closest thing is Corbin Burns, and he's a pitcher. He's only going to pitch 35 times. You're only going to see
Corbin Burns won't hit 41 homers.
Exactly. He is not even going to pitch as many games as Soto is going to hit home runs. So, and that's kind of the thing is that's a struggle. But I guess I'm really waiting to see how the Yankees use this, if they reinvent themselves or if they just kind of go panic mode. Because you know what? It sucks if it does end up being panic mode and they just sell, they just get everybody and they trade the farm like crazy. And it just seems really, like I said, panicky, erratic, because Hal did everything right to this point. If you offer somebody who lived with you, okay, so hear me out. So you're living with somebody, your roommate, and they're deciding whether they're going to stay with you and renew a year, and you cannot afford rent on your own to live in that type of place. So you have to downgrade if they move out. And the other person who's trying to get the rent is basically I'll cover $100 a month of it. And this roommate of yours is one of your you put a lot of emphasis and their needs, and you became a really good friend of theirs, whatever, and then they're like, later, I get 100 a month off. Like, that's kind of what they're going through right now, because now the Yankees have to kind of downsize. I mean, that's, I guess, my concern as well. It goes on both sides. On one, you could be over pursuant, on these guys and just take what the market gives you. And now all of a sudden you're paying top dollar to Christian Walker, because guess what? This is why Scott Boras is such a annoying dude, because he is going to get Juan Soto over with the Mets now. And then he is going to leverage the Yankees like, well, you couldn't get Juan Soto, so my client knows that money is for the taking. And so the Yankees are going to end up paying the Yankees tax, because everybody knows now they're desperate and they got a lot of money that they didn't spend.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I wanted to make sure that this is up on the screen. I know it's not a super chat, but every once in a while I'm going to see something that can be utilized. And this is perfect. Okay. So Ty, we appreciate the chat, says, I really hope people don't blame Hal or Cash for this. Okay.
Same.
I want to make sure people remember one thing. Okay. And this is probably the most important thing you'll ever take away from the show tonight. It's that when people say, well, don't panic, in my mind, the Yankees at this point should be in scramble mode, because you have to remember the goal was not to put up a sizable enough offer to where we can feel satisfied. You have to remember at the end of the day, now that everything is what it is, right? Juan Soto's made a decision. He's going to Queens. You didn't sign the player. Okay. You didn't spend a dime. Yeah. So now that we're in this situation, the Yankees aren't even close to right now, we are literally scrapping by as a wild card team at best. Okay. Given our circumstances, we haven't signed anybody, and it's the very beginning of free agency. We've got a lot of work to do. But remember, guys, we have absolutely got to find not just ways to spend money, spend it correctly. Has to be spent correctly. You don't just get to show up and say, okay, well, Christian Walker, we're going to throw 3 years, $75 million at this player. Okay, now we've got to go, right? Cody Bellinger makes a lot of sense, but you wouldn't just go scroll and say, oh, well, okay, Carlos Santana, throw him at first base, right? This isn't, at the end of the day, if you make the wrong moves, the Yankees could be looking on the outside looking in the postseason, and that's a failure. We cannot waste 2025. It's still a win now season, regardless of the results. So as far as I'm concerned, anytime I watch Michael Kay, anytime I watch anyone who works for Yes Network, the Yankees in general, they'll say Brian Cashman does a fine job, right? They'll say, yes, he's made mistakes. They'll acknowledge those mistakes, but they'll also talk about his wins. Fair enough. Well, he needs to win now more than ever. He needs to win more moves this offseason. Now that Soto's gone, Brian Cashman has to win multiple times this offseason. It can't be you go get one solid bat that fits well and then go find a solid arm out the pen. No, that's not the way it's going to work. If you want to go, and yes, verified idiot, I saw your chat, said he was on the screen. American League is not strong. And guess what, Jake? The American League's not strong again next year. And we play in it. So at this point, your job is to build a great team. How do you do that? You need more than 2 great players. You need multiple. Look at the Dodgers. Every offseason, when they have the opportunity, Teoscar Hernandez is a free agent right now. We don't care he spent billions of dollars. We don't talk about how they're going to budget that. We just know they're going after the players. And they've done exactly that. So if we go get players, I don't want it to be perceived as, oh, now the Yankees are panicking because we make a trade within the next 6 hours after Soto's news. Or we make a trade by tomorrow morning. You wake up before work.
Panicking.
I wouldn't consider that panicking. I would consider it being diligent. The Yankees have got to be diligent, and they have to hit on the moves they make starting right now.
Panicking is re-upping Anthony Rizzo and Gleyber Torres. And I would love Gleyber back, but you've already made it very clear he's gone. So if you went back on your word, that just tells me that you weren't ready for this and you're panicking. You're going back to what's familiar. When people panic, they like to stick with what's familiar. And that's another thing is, you have all this money that you didn't spend and it could be spent on this and that and whatever. panicking is going out and giving Adames $200 million. So I'm glad that didn't happen because, good Lord, if they did that, I would have been annoyed with that. I don't think that would have been a good move at all. I think, I mean, I do think they're going to have a panic move, but Bellinger is not a panic move. Going out and getting
Gleyber
Kyle
Torres
Tucker,
was such a good example. If Gleyber Torres, if we saw news that Gleyber Torres was signed for like 80
your word
million,
means nothing now.
I would evaporate.
Like, I mean, hey, I'd like Gleyber back. I'd welcome him back, but you can't sit there and tell me, oh yeah, like fundamentals and all that. I'm so glad Adames was signed before this, because I'm telling you right now, the Yankees absolutely would have panic signed him.
Yeah, and there are people. So I see Luis Arias, people talking about that fit, and some people are wondering why exactly the Padres would do that. It was actually a report earlier this offseason from John Morosi. They're at least kicking the tires on the idea. That's exactly the way it was reported. So that's the way I'm going to suggest it on our show until we hear otherwise, right? And again, we've seen trades happen, right? Kyle Tucker, we would assume if he's traded to anybody, not just the Yankees, it's going to come out of nowhere. So at this point, there's no reason to really question, would this team trade with this team or any of that stuff, guys. You've got to give them something that they want enough to send you the player that you need. And that's the situation that we're in. I really think Crochet is going to be a Yankee. Why? What did you see?
Oh my God.
Oh, come on. Appreciate you, Armando.
He's going to Carlos Correa his physical. I'm just kidding. There was no reports that he actually did that, but that's funny. No, the Mets did that. Didn't they sign Carlos Correa?
But the Mets signed him after, because remember, he signed with the Giants.
Oh my God. Yeah. He signed with the Giants.
Yeah, Carlos Correa.
Mets,
if I'm not mistaken, he signed with the Giants. Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, fails the physical. What could possibly be wrong? Oh, the Giants are just being sticklers. No, they turned around and he signed with the Mets. And then all of a sudden the Mets were like, well, we don't want him. There's something wrong with him. Sent him out packing again, and then he returns to the Twins. It's exactly what happened. So yeah, no, I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah. So the official, not like anyone cares because he's not a Yankee, and a lot of you are Yankee fans, but any Mets fans here that want to know the deal, there are escalators that can have this reach above $800 million in the deal, and Soto can opt out after the 5th year, 2029, or receive a $4 million raise per season. So that is insane. That is the Garrett Cole opt-out to the 8th power. What they're talking about is after the 5th year in 2029, if he opts out, he can opt out, get a full deal, go somewhere else, whatever. Or he can receive a $4 million raise, not just this year, but every year the rest of his career.
$4 million?
Yeah, so it would be 51 to 55 million for the remainder of the contract. I think this was somewhat incorrectly reported. I don't think it's really a 15-year, $765 million contract. And I want to be fair here. I still think Juan Soto is, no Yankee fan should, even like him at this point. I'm not saying they should hate him, but it's hard to like a guy who's going to the Mets. But I don't look at this contract now that this has come out about the deal. I don't look at this contract like it's 15 years, $765 million. This is over $800 million. That's what they're saying. Because he can opt out or receive $4 million raise per season. He's not opting out. He's going to take the $4 million for the rest of his contract.
It's so much money. And by the way, that is so much money. So the idea that, it's over $5 million, because that's the narrative that, I wouldn't say we were creating a narrative, but that's the numbers that were on the screen. It was a difference of $5 million. But when you look at the options at the player's disposal, and not just the player, but also who's representing them, Scott Boras. Scott Boras is a genius, I guess, for putting that in his contract. I think a lot of us expected that opt-out. He got exactly that. He could potentially enter into free agency as age 31 season. And frankly, if the market extends past the point where a player like Juan Soto, who's playing well in his prime, could get more than $55 million a year, then he'll go see that out. Clearly, he showed that to us this offseason that he's willing to do something like that, and that is perfectly fine. It's his choice. So, pretty insane. Yes, but it turns out we actually just traded Michael King for, actually, now it's confirmed, 1 year of Juan Soto. We got a taste of what it's like playing in meaningful baseball for the first time, by the way, in 15 years. Playing in the championship series doesn't really mean rip to this organization, but here we are. And now at this point, can Brian Cashman essentially escape purgatory? Can he do that via trade? And as far as I'm concerned, I said this on Twitter, I would be pleasantly surprised if I felt like we landed on our feet this offseason. I'm pretty disappointed.
I'm pretty disappointed too. I'm more disappointed in Juan Soto because I thought he was different. Like, truthfully, like I thought he was going to be that guy we're going to see 22 in Monument Park. I thought it was a perfect thing, but I'm going to throw something at you that I haven't seen anybody mention.
Okay.
What if, and I'm just throwing something out there, it might not be the case. We'll have no idea. What if having Aaron Judge there was great, but he realized, and maybe his camp, especially with, they just had that deal for whatever drink it was. It's Celsius, I think it was.
Yeah.
What if his camp advised him, hey, you're going to be in Aaron Judge's shadow no matter what you do? And he was like, all right, well, I'll go to the Mets. And Lindor's fantastic. But
right.
Lindor and Soto are kind of like this, I would say. Like, Soto's better, but like they're like this. Judge is clearly better than Soto. And I think that's something that has not been brought up, but I would not be surprised if that played a role negatively, despite the fact the media was almost saying that he loves Aaron Judge, and that's a big reason why he would stay. Because why would he ever admit that? He wouldn't. They're clearly friends. But Gary, I'm not going to lie. I think it kind of makes sense. Maybe that's why the Red Sox were also in it. And definitely why, like, if he went to the Dodgers, it would totally ruin this argument.
Yeah.
But he went to the Mets. And he has a chance to be the greatest Met of all time.
Can I answer this with a question?
Yeah.
Who's the player that you would rather have at the plate October 15th?
Obviously,
for the Yankees?
Juan Soto.
Obviously, Juan Soto. What month is it that we judge all Yankees?
October.
So far, who's better?
I mean, Soto's better in October, right?
As an overall asset,
but that's
Aaron Judge is the better baseball
of the
player.
Season is Aaron Judge home run fest.
Absolutely. You would describe him as the better player. However, when it comes to narrative, New York is all about narrative, specifically the Bronx. Okay. When we think about great Yankees, for the most part, 99% of them, it almost exclusively comes from high performing assets in October. And one thing Juan Soto has proven, not just with us, he did this in Washington. He was a difference maker in October baseball for multiple franchises. So having said that, if you are the key performer, if you're the player everyone expects to play well, okay, Judge is still a question mark, and we expect that to turn around, no question, but it hasn't yet. Juan Soto doesn't need to turn around anything. He shows up in October, and he's the same player in May or July or August that he is in October. He's spectacular. His baseline is incredibly high. It's the reason the Mets are paying almost $800 million. So when it comes to being in anyone's shadow, if you perform better than another player who's better than you all regular season always, in October, as far as I'm concerned, Yankees fans will think of him more favorably if he ended up as a Yankee and winning World Series championships. That's just my perspective on it. I think in general, this is a huge, I cannot say this is a mistake because he's doing what he wants to do. But as far as being in anyone's shadow, when I watched the World Series, I didn't watch Juan Soto and think, oh, this is the Yankees' second best player. What's he going to do? No, I looked at Juan Soto and said, well, he's their best option offensively. So what's he going to do? That's the way I looked at it.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was saying I think this is going to be his team sooner than later. And
yes,
I think, and that's why I think he did make a mistake. And, I don't think this is one of those things where, and I think it's very easy to say this in any sport. And I've actually talked to players in the NFL who felt they made a mistake signing with a certain team because at the time, and this is how it was described to me. NFL season ends in February. You likely played your last game in January unless you made the Super Bowl, right?
That's right.
And then free agency starts in March. If your season ended early January, that's two months away from the team. I mean, we're talking now December, 2 months away from the team. You almost lose that kind of every single day. You forget about what you really had. And I won't name the player, but there was a player who said he absolutely regretted leaving the situation. He took it for granted. He went with a little bit more money. And
was it Von Miller?
No.
Oh, well, Von Miller ended up going to the Bills. So I understand. So you're saying it was a mistake.
This reminds me of Von Miller, but it wasn't Von Miller. No, I can't say his name. He told me in confidence, but you're maybe on the right track. I can't say, but look,
I'm close.
Yeah, well, maybe. But I understand because I think it was a really good point made by this person when they were like, when you're away from the team and it's the off season, it's like that loyalty factor. You're not thinking about that. You're sitting in a table, a round table with your agent, maybe your family, maybe your family friend, maybe your publicist, and like you have a camp. That's what your camp is. And
a lot of people involved.
There's a lot of people involved. Sometimes, and this is how it was described to me, sometimes you don't always get what you want. Sometimes you please other people that are in your camp and not you. And so I found it was interesting. And I think Juan Soto may look back on this and absolutely regret this decision because, I think it really is a matter of how much does he care to win. I just think having to play the Mets having to play the Dodgers every single year in the NLCS, that's going to be annoying, man. They are not going anywhere. We were texting about it, and I said it like this. The Orioles don't scare me. They're a team. They told us what they are. They're not going to be going after the big fish. They would rather get more draft picks than spend money and take that next step. Mind you, they still haven't won a playoff game this iteration of the team.
They're on the doorstep. They're on the front doorstep, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go get O'Neal."
Tyler O'Neill. By the way, Tyler O'Neill, great pickup, but still, you're the Orioles. I mean,
why aren't you looking at game-changing pickups? It does not make sense if you're right on the outside
they're
looking in.
They're gonna let Burns go too, from the way it sounds.
More than likely. And by the way, I want to use this chat from Carlos Garcia and to really kind of piggyback off your point, because now the takeaway is okay. The Yankees avoided, right? And some people view this as a positive. A $700, and I believe the final number was $765 million asset. Okay. Over the next 15 to 16 years. And because it's too much money, right? It's so much money annually that you're giving, and that's roughly $50 million a year, 51. Yeah. But I'm going to say this. When you mentioned, Jake, that this may be a mistake that Soto looks back on, I'm going to say it's not yet. And I'll tell you why. Carlos has the perspective, and a lot of people have this perspective, and not just him. Hal Steinbrenner has this perspective. Not to be cheap. Hal Steinbrenner said, this payroll that we currently have is not sustainable. Okay? So he's being public about the fact that Juan Soto is someone we're going to be aggressive for. No question. We're going to be one of the highest bidders. But Juan Soto also has to trust you're not done. You're not done getting better. And the Yankees haven't proven. Your owner just told me you are going to be. So has Steve Cohen ever come out publicly and said, I'm just letting you guys know now, if we spend $750 million, we're probably done? No. On our show, a Yankees podcast, we're now assuming the Mets aren't done yet. They're going to be looking around to get better. Whether they want to bring Pete Alonso back, I know they talked about it this morning on a 3-year deal. The Mets, if there's one thing they've shown, is that they're willing to keep spending after they've just spent. And so as far as I'm concerned with Juan Soto, my expectation is that he didn't just join the Mets as currently constructed. I think he had the promise that they're not done. And that right there is something that is perhaps key in all of this, is that the Yankees were considered not necessarily a finished product, but somewhat. We're going to go get you and then maybe a couple pieces. The Mets may be making promises over there that, frankly, we're not a part of.
Yeah, and I mean, that's certainly possible. I do know that, and you said this, Judge took less money to come back to New York, where, he obviously spent his time there and everything. And, I just think you can't have both when it comes to the bag and the legacy. I think there's always going to be, because the Blue Jays, we're probably going to find out, this is how it works, Gary. We'll find out in a week. Yeah, the Blue Jays offered $900 million or whatever. And they're like, well, I'm not moving to Canada, so you could offer me $1 billion. But as far as I'm concerned, not going there.
Do you think they'll ever have a big-time free agent just agree to go to Toronto? Because, by the way, they have a great fan base, but you are asking someone to move to Canada. Do you think that'll ever happen?
I think it's more likely that the Blue Jays move to the United States. No, all jokes aside, yes, at some point or another, because, there are people that don't even want to live in the United States right now, that live in the United States, and they complain about it every day. So, yeah, there'll probably be one player down the road that just absolutely can't stand the country that they live in, and will be like, you know what, I'm ready to move to Canada. Let's sign with the Blue Jays.
We can trade him to Bangladesh.
Yeah, you know what? We could trade him to Saudi Arabia at this point. I don't really care. It's a bummer, and it's interesting as well. It's almost like, it's also kind of weird too with our show, which, by the way, we have over 11,000 people watching. So you guys are freaking awesome. I don't
make sure you guys subscribe, by the way, and don't just leave. And if you did subscribe, we appreciate that. Make sure you guys hit the bell so you get a notification. YouTube, for whatever reason, decides that while you have subscribed to the people you've subscribed to, they're not going to show the content. They're just going to put it in your For You page. Not really relevant when we go live.
How it is.
And in 2025, we'll be going live. Really, all of winter meetings, of course, but next year, we're going to be going live after every game. We've sort of made a habit of this. We love it. Make sure you guys hit that bell so you guys are notified. But I see a lot of suggestions, by the way. I see a lot of suggestions as to what the Yankees should be doing.
Before we do that.
Love it. Go ahead.
I think it's time to drop. There's bad news, right? We got bad news with Juan Soto.
Of course.
But let's give him good news. Let's give him some good news.
There's good news?
Yankees Unloaded is coming back for 3 days every week until we start the season, and then we're going to be every single day. So our new schedule, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, and on Saturday, it is 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So really excited to do that, and that will be until... we have games every day, and we'll be live every day. This channel is getting bigger and bigger and bigger because of you guys. You guys keep coming here. You guys keep with your super chats, and we want to be here for you guys. The off season, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, losing a player like Soto. I just went through that with the Rams this offseason, losing Aaron Donald. It sucks losing a superstar. But, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And when you are the Yankees and say, imagine being the Nationals after winning the World Series, and he doesn't want to stay with you, and now all of a sudden you have to trade him away, and you're getting prospects, but as we learn, C.J. Abrams, love the player, think he's going to be really, really good for a long time. He's never going to be Juan Soto. So I think that's ever going to be. No, and I think that's important to remind people is that keep in mind, it sucks now, but imagine being the Washington Nationals who lose Bryce Harper, and then Juan Soto is the guy to get them over the hump, win the World Series, and they don't look like they're anywhere near getting back there anytime soon because, quite honestly, they don't have the money the Yankees have to spend. The Yankees could very well be back in the World Series this year based on whatever they do. We don't know if they're going to. We have no idea. But, Gary, I know you agree with me in the sense that The Yankees, I mean, we don't know if they'll spend it, but the Yankees have the money where they could easily be back in the thick of it. So I think it's just important to kind of remind people, like, look, like, you know, we're fortunate. We like a team that has a lot of money. They might not use it like the Dodgers. Honestly, this team every day feels more and more and more like the Los Angeles Lakers. But, you know, that's who I also like. But, you know, that's
it's a tough year. And by the way, Brian, we appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. I mean, you've been great all
Brian.
year. Brian says he's been spectacular. He says if we think Cashman can fix this, we're lying to ourselves. There's nobody, no one person who can replace Soto. Without Soto, our lineup sucks. Okay, it is a shit show. Now, I'm going to say this.
Mm-hmm.
Brian is factually correct. There is nobody who can replace him. Not even Kyle Tucker. But remember one thing. If we did go get a player that you can say, okay, given their needs, because what are our needs, Jake? Our needs are now we've got a hole, a left hand. We don't have a left-handed bat in this lineup that we can trust in the middle of the order. We don't. Gosh,
well,
dang it.
We won't see too much of that with Clay Holmes. Yeah, these genius Mets, by the way, they just
he won't blow a game over
starter.
there. He will not blow a single game over there for the Mets. So that's the one positive.
Gary, it's overdue.
What?
We have to take a moment of silence for the Yankees losing Juan Soto.
Yeah, it's bad. And people can't say this is, if you had watched this show from start to finish, this is not a coping show. I feel like this is like just a dousing of reality. The Yankees at this point, their number one pursuit, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I know Vladdy Jr. is a free agent next year. I think he's going to Boston. I have no doubt about it. I don't know why. I get the feeling
that
he's going to the Boston Red Sox. They'll have that pairing with Devers. It'll be good for them. I think the Yankees
is not
number one.
The Yankees.
No, I think the Yankees number one target starting today. And if you can get it done, then spectacular. If not, then we're shit out of luck. We'll have to do it next year. But it is Kyle Tucker.
Absolutely.
If you want to talk about the player that the Yankees have to get, things change. Yeah. The moment, if you had asked me 3 hours ago who I thought the Yankees had to get, I'd say, well, Juan Soto is the guy. It only cost us money. But Hal Steinbrenner did what he was supposed to do. He offered $750 million. The player didn't come back to the Yankees. You lick your wounds and you say, okay, what's next? This is not a cope. This is not any of those things. It's reality. So you turn around and say, who is available, who's not? The Yankees have to find a way to be great in 2025. And if Kyle Tucker can be a part of that team, then spectacular. You've gotten more athletic. You've gotten much better defensively, much better fundamentally. And obviously, Kyle Tucker is a potential future Hall of Famer. This guy is electric offensively. Is he Juan Soto? Is he going to hit 48 homers? Probably not. I know he hit 41, but you guys get the point. Is he going to be one of the most premier left-handed, maybe an argument for the best player in the game for a couple weeks? Probably not. But Kyle Tucker's a guy who can put a team on his back in October baseball as well. He's that talented. So as far as I'm concerned, given the fit of what Kyle Tucker does well, he doesn't strike out a ton. He's left-handed. He's going to have no problem slotting in behind Aaron Judge. I think that is a can't-miss player. So who knows if Houston's going to re-sign him? We haven't seen it yet. They've still got to go do that. So, yeah, it's definitely tough to say, oh, well, look at the shiny toy next year. That sucks. But that's the situation we find ourselves in. Or this year. But Brian Cashman is going to have to say, okay, we lost Juan Soto. I'm willing to trade in a lot. We're not talking about Michael King here. We are talking about your shiny toy and Jason Dominguez. You can wave it goodbye. For a 1-year rental of Kyle Tucker, the Yankees get a lot better as far as I'm concerned. You're getting a player who's ready right now. You're getting a player that you just lost Juan Soto. You better not lose that bidding for Kyle Tucker. You should just go ahead and get that deal done right now.
Yeah.
He turned down $150 million, $152 million. I would just throw $285 million at Kyle Tucker and hope to God he accepts it.
Yeah, I think I couldn't be more in agreement with you on Kyle Tucker. I think he's just too good of a fit. I mean, I'd go as far as to say this, okay? I think he is a better all-around player than Juan Soto, meaning his defense puts him in the discussion. And if you were to get Kyle Tucker now, then, I mean, you only do that if you believe you can win a World Series, right? Otherwise, you would just wait until next year.
Absolutely.
But they can win the World Series. If they get Kyle Tucker, they absolutely can. If they make some moves, they absolutely can. And so if you get Kyle Tucker and say you were able to keep Dominguez, right, and it doesn't cost Dominguez, and you just unload the farm, you get Tucker, Dominguez, Judge, that's a pretty good-looking outfield. Now, keep in mind, Dominguez is all potential. We don't really know what Dominguez is, but that's a pretty good-looking outfield. I would say if the Yankees replace Juan Soto with Kyle Tucker, this is very reminiscent to when the Braves lost Freddie Freeman and traded for Olsen. And I know some people will say, Freddie Freeman's so much better than Olsen. Olsen's really good, though. And that's the thing, is that you're not expecting to get Juan Soto. Juan Soto just made the most money in the sport. And there's a reason for that. But if you can go out and get Kyle Tucker and you can sign him to a deal that's similar, or you know, not similar, but probably it'd be like 400, 500 million. I mean, he's not getting what Soto got. I think that's a no-brainer because Kyle Tucker is somebody that he might not have the Juan Soto name that everybody knows. Kyle Tucker's one of those. He's you know, if you have a wide receiver room, he's your second wide receiver, but he's like a star that like isn't talked about, except only people that know the sport know him.
Oh, so he's like Jose Ramirez.
Oh, good God. Yeah.
At this point, I feel like Jose Ramirez is more known than Kyle Tucker. I feel like
Aaron Boone. Oh, dude. Poor Aaron Boone. He watched that awful game today, the Eagles and Panthers, and then he just got back probably from his trip and saw this. I feel for him.
You definitely do.
He was all decked out in Eagles gear.
In theory, by the way, so I see obviously that there are people who say, well, we shouldn't make that mistake again. We shouldn't get redundant in trading, say, the farm, right? You get rid of all your prospects or a lot of them, and you go get Kyle Tucker, who, by the way, again, we said this earlier, the Astros have to agree to the deal. They have to want what you're giving. But let's just assume, let's assume, Jake, that they want Jason Dominguez and company, and we send them the player. Now, some people say, well, that's a huge mistake because aren't we going to learn from the mistake we just made? Well, guys, if the Yankees decide to wait on Kyle Tucker, remember, Aaron Judge will be 33 now. 2025 is a wash. I'm not saying you need Kyle Tucker or it has to be that one specific player, but if you don't go get aggressive and trade some prospects, you thought your prospects in 2025 all as a unit were going to replace the output of Juan Soto and you're going to go win a World Series? No, as it currently stands, we're not in the running to even attend a World Series. So the Yankees have to essentially, given what just occurred, the Yankees either can just say, well, let's lick our wounds. We've got no shot in 2025. Let's try for 2026. That's a huge risk because you're asking Aaron Judge to just get 2 years older and then hope that you're going to go win a World Series in 2026 and beyond. My thought has always been the Yankees need to be aggressive right now, and you've got to worry about 2 years from now in 2 years. It's kind of nuts that people want to wait around for free agents, and then you get to free agency, the player doesn't choose to come to your team, and you're like, all right, well, what's next? Let's wait another 2 years. We're not that type of team.
No, I agree. I will say this, there's really just not that much. So I don't want to sit here and act like, oh yeah, there's plenty of guys, to sign and what have you. There's really not. And there's not a lot of bats in the outfield that, you could really come close to replacing that level of production. Because let's just be honest with ourselves. Juan Soto offers this plate discipline that is just infectious to this team. And you're just not going to find many guys to have that level of plate discipline. So you could get a Teoscar Hernandez if you want, but I just don't think he's going to come close to filling that. So really, yeah, I think trades are going to happen. I would almost guarantee Cody Bellinger is a Yankee at this point. That has to happen. That's the trade that has to happen. I think Crochet might happen. You can't trade for everybody because if you're going to trade for Kyle Tucker, you can't get Crochet. You're going to need to give up pretty much all your farm. And I think that leans on the side of panicking if you give up your entire farm system. With that said, okay, I think you have to get you have to get 2 of those 3. Or you have to get 2 of these 4. Ready? You have to get 2 of these 4: Bellinger, Tucker, Burns, and Crochet.
Okay, so you assume Crochet is going to cost you probably everything the Yankees have to offer. Mm-hmm. Tucker is a 1-year rental. When is Crochet a free agent? I want to make sure I'm next year. So he's a 1-year rental as well?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I mean, it kind of screws it up because they ended up being good this year. They figured it out, the Tigers. But Skubal is going to be a free agent next year, I believe. So, you know.
I'm expecting Detroit to just lock him up early.
Yeah.
That's just my expectation. I know they've talked about it. I was watching some games, seeing how he was covered, and that's the way that at least he was talking. But again, guys, Juan Soto talked the talk. He said what needed to be said, and yet we ended up here. So not everything that's said ends up coming to fruition. We're in a situation now where the Yankees, I know you just said if you trade all the prospects, it's somewhat of a panic. Mm-hmm. I've told you before, Jake, the Yankees shouldn't be looking at prospects as if they're gold, considering whose prospects they are.
Well, they don't really have much gold.
They don't have any gold. So when people talk about, well, what do you guys have to offer us? Well, Jason Dominguez is absolutely a valuable player on the trade market. Now, you might not think he's going to be a star, but other teams would love to have Jason Dominguez. They saw what he did last year. They saw the potential. That's still there. Now, he's got to still go prove it. But again, guys, when you're talking about Kyle Tucker or any Vladdy Jr., all these players that can be acquired via trade, it's possible. The Yankees do at some point have to act in a sense of desperation. You just lost a future Hall of Famer. He has flaws. He didn't play any defense, really. It's not for a lack of effort. He wasn't a good defender. But again, guys, not every player is great at everything. How many baseball players outside of Shohei Ohtani are great at literally everything? We just told you Aaron Judge, statistically speaking, we're talking analytics, was not a great center fielder this year. He wasn't. He was league average at best, okay? And he dropped a routine fly ball in the World Series that looked atrocious, okay? Mistakes happen. But over the course, we're talking macro here. Aaron Judge isn't a spectacular center fielder. He's not. He's pretty good, not great. What we pay him to do is to hit. If you can hit a baseball, you make a lot of money. And that's what Juan Soto's paid to do in Queens, is to show up, be pretty miserable out in right field or left field, wherever they want to play him, and rake. That's his job. So as far as I'm concerned, there's not going to be many players that you say he checks all the boxes. I will tell you this, though, Jake. Kyle Tucker is one player that's on my list where I say he does everything pretty well. He can run. He's a Gold Glover. I know couple people, stragglers, put Nolan Arenado in the comment section. Nolan Arenado would have been great 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Not in 2024. He was a great fielder, spectacular, platinum Glover, could rake. You know, he had the power, had the contact, didn't strike out. Perfect fit for the Yankees at third base. Arenado would have been great 4 years ago. Kyle Tucker is another player that you say, if the ball's hit out to him, I expect him to make the play. Balls hit out to him, and on third base, less than 2 outs, I expect him. He's got a great arm, right? When it comes to the fundamentals of the game, Kyle Tucker is never going to be the problem. That's probably one of the players I'm looking at. Again, they've got to agree to send him. They've got to agree to send him anywhere. So, yeah, it would be a great fit. I know some people, I see it in the chat, some people think Jason Dominguez is overrated. I don't blame you for thinking that, given the fact the Yankees didn't trust him to play over Alex Verdugo in the postseason. They didn't let him touch the field, not even a pinch hit. So what are you going to do? But we still have to see what Brian Cashman has done when free agency is concluded. Once free agency is done and you guys are unsatisfied with what we're looking at, then we can look at Cashman and say, well, what have you done?
No, that is true. I wanted to ask you, you brought up a name to me. I'm totally blanking on him. Was he an outfielder, the Japanese player that was getting posted?
Yes. So I believe he was listed as his like secondary position. I don't even remember who it was. I know technically he has until I believe
find this shit.
No. So
Awful.
It said his secondary position was left field. He was a high contact guy. Maybe the chat can help us out with this. It's a Japanese player who was posted.
I would sign him yesterday.
I mean, they all seem to be hitting, don't they?
Dude,
they can all hit. They can all pitch.
Players,
They're great, man.
See, Japanese players, they just have a different level of preparation and respect for the game that I just think they're almost can't miss. Now, are they all going to be superstars? No. But, like, for instance, Yoshida, the guy on the Red Sox, I think his name is, right?
Yeah, and yeah, so Yoshida had a down year last year. I know that I think he had like a really good rookie season. Then all of a sudden it was like the second half, he was atrocious. They don't know where his power went, all that stuff. Then obviously he hit that game-tying home run against Clay Holmes earlier this year. Can't really blame him. It was Clay Holmes. But the point is, and I sort of agree with you, we don't want to just turn and be like, oh, Juan Soto didn't happen, let's turn to Japan. They're really good. And you just throw money at this player. That's not what you're saying. But it's the right players in the fit. Can this guy field his position? Yes. Okay, great. The Yankees got better. There were a lot of guys in 2024 that weren't fielding their position. There were swinging bunts. We were not making plays at third. Gleyber Torres led the league in errors at second base. There are so many ways this Yankees team can get better. Our first baseman, we could not field routine ground balls. We really couldn't. It was really bad. Well, so can we read this super chat from Mark? Mark, we really appreciate then Mark. We'll get to your point. He says, months ago, I said Soto to the Mets and Alonso to the Yankees, but given they don't want to be the little brother, I don't know if it'll happen. Yeah, Mark, I actually thank you again for the super chat. I agree with you. I know Jake has the prediction that Pete Alonso very well still could happen, is to become a Yankee. My perspective is I sort of agree with you. It is a horrible message to sort of swap players in that way. I just think it looks atrocious, and there's just no possible way that Brian Cashman is looking at this and saying, oh, you took our generational superstar, well, we'll take your pretty good player. Pete Alonso is not going to the Hall of Fame. He's Mark McGwire of today. He's still a good player. He has clutch home runs, like not chopped liver at all. I think he's going to make $250 million this offseason. That's great. But I'm not throwing $250 million at Pete Alonso just because we failed to acquire Juan Soto this offseason. I don't think that's the move, Mark, and I sort of agree with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that guy that you sent me because you sent it to me.
And he was hitting like 335, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean, they all do. Like, Yoshida was insane, in the Japan leagues. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I don't know if I will, but I will say I definitely see Murakami just became very possible next year. Now, is he going to end up being a star? I don't know. But he did have that 50-something home run season. And I believe he's a left-handed hitter, so Yankee Stadium could be good for him. But I'm trying to remember. I think it's yeah, it's funny. I just looked on Twitter, like searching for things on Twitter is terrible. They keep bringing up Masataka Yoshida from when the Red Sox got him. 2 years ago? Yeah, Japanese outfielder. I just can't.
Well, Major League Baseball does such a poor job of letting you know who is really on the horizon. They sort of are just like, hey, by the way, this guy is posted. And you're like, oh, really? And they're like, oh, no. He's coming in 2 years. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, Sasaki, he won't be here till 2026. Oh, don't worry about that. He's coming early. You just told me last year this wasn't the case. So it's very difficult. Honestly, Jake, I can't even blame you. It's so difficult to keep track of all this crap. And by the way, so Steven wants to know, who are we trading for Tucker? The answer is pretty much whatever they will accept. You're talking about the top prospects of your organization.
He's a rental, so it's doable. Like, let's not act like it's a pipe
workable
dream. I mean, Juan Soto got traded for what I would trade it all over again for a year of him, to be honest with you.
We had a shot at it, and we showed up and laid an absolute egg in the World Series. And frankly, you're sort of hoping the Dodgers fell short in the championship series or the division series, and they almost did. San Diego almost had their number. We almost played the Padres. I don't think people realize how close we really are to different outcomes. Would we have beaten San Diego? Probably not. But the point being is that narratives are written, after a week or two, all of a sudden it's like all set in stone. Everyone knew the Dodgers were going to win the World Series. As soon as that series ended, it was foregone conclusion. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball by far, and they just signed Blake Snell. And Teoscar Hernandez very well may return. So, I don't know. Guys, things can change very quickly. Trades can be made very quickly. When we were talking about Juan Soto being traded here, especially on Twitter, Jake, you and I were both doing so. This was a player we had to have, perfect fit, and all of a sudden people are saying, well, why would the Padres trade him to you guys? They don't want to trade him to the Yankees. And sure enough, they did. Why? Because we included Michael King, a polished guy who could start games. The Padres loved that. No one wanted to trade for him because they assumed we're going to lose him to the Mets or Yankees anyways. So, long story short, it's exactly what happened. So, Steven, when you ask, who are they going to trade? Probably our best guys, but it's absolutely possible, given the situation that the Astros have not signed this player long-term. It's exactly why people will be looking to trade for Vladdy Jr. as well. So we'll see where everything falls.
And I would like them to really push for Sasaki, but if he doesn't want to go to the Yankees, which it sounds like he has no interest, then you can't force him to go to the Yankees, So also that's going to be international pool money. You can't just give him the bag. So I think that makes it tough.
He's not coming to us now. That team lost Juan Soto. I want to be a part of that. He's not. Sasaki's not coming. You're going to have to set the table by getting a trade done, right? Take people's opinion out of it, build a quality team, and then you say, okay, now if you want to come join this team, here's what we're working with. But as of now, we're working with a 31, 32-year-old Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. We're sort of just hoping he's going to be right in October next year. The Yankees have to go out and take it. You're not going to be able to look and ask players to come play for you. Not right now.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find it, but there is an outfielder.
That player's John Doe. He's gone.
Yeah, he is John Doe. No, there is a player, guys, and if anybody knows, drop in the comment section below. Mark and Steven, of course, appreciate your super chats. I don't know if I had a chance to say that. I've been so focused on trying to find this Japanese player, this outfielder, that Gary I went through our text. Gary sent it to me through text. Could not find it. So,
by the way, I've seen this a couple times. Unique, thank you for being active in our chat. We really appreciate you guys getting involved and being on YouTube, where obviously our show is hosted strictly. And make sure you guys get subscribed. I want to put this actually up on the screen. So he says, my prediction is Yankees get Arenado. I'm here to tell you right now, if the New York Yankees traded for a player that he didn't just have a down year this past season, right? He wasn't awful, but it was a down year to his standards. He also didn't play well the year prior. If the New York Yankees trade for a player on the wrong side of 30, who's off 2 down years consecutively, and just told us all, yeah, I'm willing to move positions, and you trade for that player, I would be this podcast would be sponsored by Marlboro by the middle of next year. I would be addicted to cigarettes if that occurred. Also, people are asking, how about a trade for Mike Trout? How about not? Mike Trout is a spectacular baseball player, probably already a Hall of Famer, regardless of the injuries. Mike Trout cannot stay on the baseball field. This is not a knock. This is an evaluation based on what he's done consecutively. If anyone trades for a player, even if the Angels took a ton of money and they're saying, well, the Yankees can afford to take the risk if it only costs them $10 million, great. Do you expect Mike Trout to play 140 games next year, even 140 games? Everybody consecutively would tell you no. The Yankees need sure things. The Yankees need people they can rely on. Kyle Tucker can be relied on. Corbin Burns can be relied on. Why? Because they have a track record of doing so. It's not a guessing game. You have to, at some point, look at players and say, well, if you want to be a part of this organization and you want me to assume I can rely on you, what'd you do in 2024? What about 2023? Oh, you pitched 200 innings. Oh, you pitched 225 innings last year. Well, now as we project into 2025, my expectation is that. So,
yeah,
go do that.
Still trying to find him. Murakami is listed as the number 1 hitter, but he's not. Was it? No, that's a pitcher. You said outfielder, right?
Yeah, no. So he's not an outfielder. He was an infielder. He was like a corner infielder.
Akamoto?
It could be that.
That guy.
Everyone right now is like Yakamoto, and then Yamamoto just came up on Google. Kazuma Akamoto.
Yeah, okay, can play third, first base, and he's an outfielder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bobby. We really appreciate that. Props to you, our member. We're throwing you up on the screen. Thank you, Bobby.
I don't know if that's the same guy, though, because you were telling me.
Well, I can tell you.
No. It's Hai Seong Kim. He's right.
Yes,
it is. Let's go.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, because I tweeted he should go to the Yankees. That's exactly what I tweeted.
So Hai Seong Kim is a he's a Korean baseball player. He is a second base, shortstop, left fielder. Perfect. He hit 304 to this point in his career. He has a 766 OPS, which that just means he doesn't have a lot of home runs, right? But he's coming off his best year where he had 166 hits, 11 homers. He had 30 stolen bases, 326 batting average, only struck out 62 times, and had an 841 OPS. So he's got better each year. And right now he is 25, will be 26 soon. And Hai Seong Kim, is he posted?
My mom says you aren't saying his name right. Oh, well, thank you so much, Rachel Maddow. We really apologize for we really appreciate the correction. Yeah. Sorry, guys, we lost Juan Soto, but what we can do, can we do you Hai Seong Kim? As according to his numbers, he's essentially everything that the Yankees lack.
I'm gonna pull you. I will say exactly what you always say. I don't give a rippity doodah. I will bring Hai Seong Kim, and I will freaking put him in Monument Park at this point, because look, he is probably better than any outfield option you're gonna get. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I love this.
Oh my God! So I see in the chat, Hai See Kim. That's his nickname. Boom.
Oh, bring him in.
This is crazy. We went from Juan Soto. He's gonna. And by the way, most Yankees fans weren't like, "Oh, Juan Soto's definitely coming back." I think most of us were like, if the Yankees are in the mid 700s, he's probably returning. Yeah. Not only were we in the mid 700s, we were at 760 million, and we gave him 16 years. We were going to pay this dude till he was 42. Everyone's saying in 5 years, Juan Soto would be a DH. Juan Soto would be a fossil by 42.
Yeah. And by the way, High C, we're going to call him. He'd be playing left field. There's not
absolutely.
You're just getting him for his bat at that point.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know what his fielding numbers are currently, but I can look that up as well.
Do you think they're better than Jason Dominguez fielding numbers?
Probably.
Because as of now, Jason Dominguez looked like who was it again? Which president used to play with the kites?
No.
Because as of now, that's the way it looks.
Well, he hasn't played left field since 2020. So I don't know why they're saying he's a outfielder. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to play left field. I mean, my dad came into the league a shortstop, got moved to third base because they had a prospect they'd rather have over there.
He
got moved to right field and moved to left field. So I don't know.
Did you hear me? Our guy C had 16 errors at second. So he's literally Gleyber Torres without the power. We're just down bad. I don't know what else to say. No, all jokes aside, I think, well, was it Jung-Hoo Lee, the guy who went to the Giants?
I believe so. Could be wrong, but I believe so.
I would take that guy right now. So that's like what you're looking at, just not as much power. But Kim is your leadoff hitter. You know what I mean? Like, your leadoff hitter, play it in left field. I wish I had baseball savant. I could tell you how fast he was, but I'll just take it. All right, just take it from me like this. The guy's had 211 stolen bases in 8 seasons. Okay. He had 30 last year, 25, 34, 46, 25, 20, 31. So 7 seasons. I don't know why it says 8. So, yeah, 326, 335, 318, on base percentage, 383, 396, 373, 372. I would go after Hye-Seong Kim. I would.
I can't even commit to this because I'll tell you right now, I've never even heard of this dude. This, for all I know, this could be a creative player off MLB The Show 25. I have no idea who this guy is. And mind you, his numbers are good. Right? Yeah. He's got good enough numbers where Jake's willing to commit to it. Right now, hasn't seen the player play once.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you this. The Yankees have to get more fundamental. If you just lost Juan Soto, I probably don't want to experiment with some player from Korea. Not saying that they don't play great baseball or play great baseball from Japan.
Juan Soto, though. You're not going to replace Juan Soto. This would just be them adding somebody that, honestly, more contact, and he's from Korea. He's going to be able to be reliable and, never too high, never too low. I just think that's kind of what they need right now. He's going to be posted. Oh, he was posted on December 4th. His signing window is open for 30 days. So I have not seen the Yankees once linked to him. I don't know what it is. Korean players, every time it's always Seattle. It's always San Francisco.
Well, it's because it's because they can get on a one-way flight. That's the reason why the West Coast is so compelling. So,
but Korean players, not Japanese, Korean, it seems like it's never the Dodgers. Like, it's like, Korean? Oh yeah, they go to the Giants or Seattle. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's weird. And no Padres either, which is kind of weird. So yeah, I guess that's another variable to look at. There's just not. He's intriguing. Like, I know I'm saying that I would take him. I'm not like dying to get this guy. He's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think it's important, though, to realize there's not a lot of options. There's just not. And so really what it comes down to as we kind of wrap up this show is that the Yankees are going to have to get creative here. Not everybody in free agency is going to fit. Okay. You can't just, make this a fit happen that's not there. The best guys that are left on the board, Corbin Burns, that should be priority number 1.
Has to happen.
Roki Sasaki is number 3. He doesn't want to go to you, so you're out of it. Blake Snell already signed. Alex Bregman, who's 31. I got to be honest with you. There's something about Bregman. I just feel like he's about to hit a wall. Like, I wasn't overly impressed with his season last year. I think for him, it's more so.
So this is so Alex wants to know. Have you guys looked into Capri Sun? I think I have some in my refrigerator, but they're not a very good value.
No, it's Capri Sun.
We really appreciate you, Alex.
Double X Alex. Jimmy Fox would be proud. What was I guess? Oh yeah, so Alex Bregman. I don't think it's necessarily. I don't know. I'm not like sold on Bregman. Fried can't pitch in the postseason. Santander is pretty much a DH, although he would give you the power. He had 44 home runs last year. Because every time I was like, Santander hits a home run.
We're probably going to end up with at least
Santander
one player
where
like we reached
36 home runs last year. So I got to be honest, like he'd probably help a lot.
It felt like it.
It did. Pete Alonso, I think, is in play. I don't think this is a great market. I mean, I've maintained that. This isn't me going back and like, oh, I liked it before. Now, I've maintained that. We talked about it. I'm like, Christian Walker's 34, and he's probably the best pure hitter left. Like, if we're being honest. Jack Flaherty, under 30 years old. I don't know. They flagged his back, and it's funny because Cashman said that like he didn't actually do it, and then it came out that he did. So I don't know how that works. And then I mean, Justin Bieber signed, so he's out.
We're in such scramble mode at this point.
Tanner
if you
Scott.
Really look, no, Tanner Scott would be a great signing because you have to also remember we now have our closer in Luke Weaver. He's our closer.
Yeah.
And we're already exponentially better in 2025, given the fact we can close a game. The issue is, what do you do to replace Juan Soto? It's not going to be via one player. Even if you traded for Kyle Tucker, he doesn't replace Juan Soto. But you could argue, given the fit, Kyle Tucker overall, for what he can do for our team, it could be a better fit than Juan Soto was. That's saying quite a bit. So I know some people are going to try and take that as he's a better player than Juan Soto. That's not what that's saying, but people can take it as they will. So I see Jet with the super chat. Even got a picture in there. He says, I think we get both Burns, Fried, Bellinger, and just play for Tucker next year. Well, I'm going to say this. If we get Burns, I already saw some of the offers were projected to pay him $35 million. $35 million a year. It's a lot of money. We pay Garrett Cole $36 million a year. So just to give you an idea of where the territory is, and the idea of getting Burns, I'm all for it. Okay, I couldn't agree more.
I don't
Cody
want
Bellinger.
I don't want Fried. I want Bellinger.
I want Bellinger because at this point you're also remembering Bellinger can play left field, center field, first base. He's won a Gold Glove in the outfield. It's been really good. Cody Bellinger helps the Yankees become more of what they were atrocious at last year. So as far as I'm concerned, coming into the postseason, Jake, how many times did we say, well, let's leave this guy out of a rotation? We don't really trust him. Then he has a big start, and then he lays an egg the next day, right? It happened a million different times. And then people sat in the comments or via Twitter, the great platform. They said, oh, I knew the whole time he was going to be good. Then he pitches like butt. And they say, oh, I knew he should have never been pitching. What it goes to show you is that perhaps the Yankees could use somebody who's a little bit more consistent, someone who's more reliable with a track record, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just a project. Carlos Rodon's a player who's pitched incredibly well at times. And then there's been a 1.5 year span where you're like, who am I watching? Corbin Burns has never had a stretch, anything like that. So I think he's a really good fit. He's a guy that gives the Yankees innings, and he's not a question mark. And if you move off of Marcus Stroman, you don't have to say, wow, he gave us 150 innings. That's really good. Yeah, it is. It's good for what he was brought here to do, but Corbin Burns would be much better. So going to have to agree with you, Jet. Love that his name's just Jet. Much easier to read.
Yes, thank you, Jet. Not Aaron Judge is my Pookie, I guess, which is
not
one of our members. That's so funny. There was something I wanted to highlight. Oh, bro, did you notice something? Ha-Seong Kim is a free agent as well. That is insane.
No comment, because we want sponsors here at this podcast, so you will get absolutely nothing from me, guys.
Hey, yeah, but still, just how close those. And by the way, Ha-Seong Kim, not to be confused with Ha-Seong Kim.
To be confused.
Is the younger player, and based on the numbers, is the better player. I'm not loving Ha-Seong Kim's stats. I like Ha-Seong Kim's stats, not loving Ha-Seong Kim. So,
I love that fit, by the way. I've seen multiple people in the chat bringing up Ketel Marte.
So
I think will be the last thing. So let me say this about the Diamondbacks. Let's remember a couple of things. The Diamondbacks just made a World Series. They went out and got Jordan Montgomery. They went and got Rodriguez, guys they expected to spearhead their rotation. They're also looking within the division and say, do we even hold a candle as it stands to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2025? The answer should be no. The Diamondbacks have absolutely nothing to throw at the Dodgers in the foreseeable future. So they've been talking about trying to offload Montgomery, right? Trying to offload some talent. I even saw John Morosi from MLB Network reported that they're going to be looking to trade maybe one of their key pitchers. Could be Zach Gallen, could be McCarthy. So the Diamondbacks are sellers. Now, would they trade Ketel Marte? Ketel Marte would be spectacular. He'd be a very good fit for this team. And I know we're really high on Durbin. Yeah, we're high on Caleb Durbin, but Caleb Durbin's shown he can play multiple positions. If you want him to play third, he can do that. So, yeah, I'm interested in Ketel Marte. Very good player, highly underrated, rightfully so. He plays for the freaking Diamondbacks. So, get him in New York, see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're going to have to wait. There's not a lot, and there's going to be a lot. Like, this is the calm before the storm. Juan Soto, the first domino fell. Obviously, he wasn't the first, but he was the biggest fish. So now others are going to, essentially now they're going to make their moves. So we'll find out what happens. And I would just say keep an eye on the names that get thrown around by reputable people. Like, let me make that very clear.
Wait, he didn't go to the Red Sox? Juan Soto didn't sign with Boston? Those morons on Twitter. I cannot believe that people allow Red Sox podcasters to report news. We're being serious. Really think about it. I would never say any of their names.
Did you see the Pirate guy?
I did see the Pirate guy. These are serious people. They're like, oh, no, it wasn't me that said something wrong. It was my source. I'm like, well, then who's your source? Oh, I can't tell you. Okay, well, then you can just make stuff up.
Oh, here's my thing. I mean, if the guy at Five Guy says, yo, hear me out, I think Juan Soto's going to the Pirates, that's not a source.
It doesn't mean anything. And by the way, guys, these people aren't hearing from sources that are wrong. They're just making it up. You want to know why? Because people love confirmation bias. If I, a Yankees podcaster, tweeted, Aaron Judge has gotten on a phone call with Juan Soto, and he's decided that they've gotten together, they're going to get it done. Juan Soto is a Yankee. Do you know what would happen to the tweet, guys? It would explode. It would explode. And guess what? There'd be a bunch of people saying he knows absolutely nothing, and there'd be a bunch of people going, let's go. And guess what? If I was wrong, nothing would happen to me. Nothing. People would just say, oh, we'll just never listen to you again. I'm like, really? Would you not? Because last I checked, a lot of these reporters and people who are trying to be reporters and are really podcasters, they'll just be wrong. And then 3 weeks later, just start tweeting again that they have sources. They don't. So guys, put notifications on to the reporters that you trust that get it right. They wait. They wait for news. They don't just tweet to go viral. Twitter stuff is irrelevant. I think most of us sitting here, we just want the correct information, not the latest opinion or the latest confirmation. So yeah, it is quite ridiculous that we even have to say that on this podcast, but highly recommend you guys, if you hear any rumors about the Yankees potentially being involved in a Kyle Tucker trade or a trade for Crochet, wait for the important reporters to say something.
If there are reports and it's, a Jack Curry saying they're interested in Crochet or Kyle Tucker and, maybe there's some communication, that's coming from winter meetings, which we tried to go to. Unfortunately, it did not work out. But that is coming from winter meetings. This is when this stuff starts to take off. So this is when, the whole Olsen trade. I mean, the Yankees were interested in Olsen before the A's traded him to the Braves. I mean, this is where this stuff takes off. So, we'll see. It's a convention where all these agents essentially are getting together with these GMs and other executives and players and what have you. Everybody's out there. So there's going to be a lot of news that comes out tomorrow. Well, I mean, this is already Monday on the East Coast, but there's going to be a lot of news that comes out tomorrow. And it could be, Burns could end up signing. The first domino fell, other dominoes are going to fall as well. So we'll find out. But I'll tell you right now, I really appreciate you guys. 13,000 viewers across just 2 platforms is insane. I mean, we're talking YouTube and Twitter. We had over 13,000 people. Baseball,
pretty good in 5 months.
Baseball ended 2 months ago. So just the idea that we're talking about this now in December, in the heat of the football season. NBA, NHL is going on, college basketball, college football. It's pretty great. So, look, we're not done. Gary and I will be back tomorrow, for our weekly show to try and, add some context. And we're probably going to find out some stuff tomorrow. So we'll be talking hot stove. We'll break down Crochet a little bit more. We'll break down some of these guys. I think really a lot of this was a reaction, but also, I think we gave some ideas. The Yankees are not in the best position. We're not going to lie to you, but it's the season's not over. It hasn't started yet. And, we know that Juan Soto is going to have to literally play the Dodgers every single year to get to the World Series. And luckily, the Yankees don't have to do that. So that's one
I have a great movie.
Take away. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's your movie to
I was ready.
Wrap it up?
So I feel like this movie really pertains to what we're seeing, and it is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Juan Soto just robbed us of Christmas. Very poor winter so far that can turn around, but it's not likely. So don't hold your breath. Very, very tough sledding ahead, and we don't necessarily have the best general manager to rely on. So can it be done? Absolutely. I think a lot of us were pleased we traded for Juan Soto. It obviously proved, at least in 2024, to be the right move. We made it to a World Series for the first time in 15 years. Very good. But as it stands heading into 2025, we have to rely again on Brian Cashman, whether we like it or not. Here at this podcast, we're going to tell you guys, smoke your cigarettes and drink your alcohol at this point. We are in a situation where we need to watch people we don't necessarily trust make decisions that will affect our fandom for the next 2 decades. It's a lot on the line. So can't necessarily say best of luck to Juan Soto, but the Mets did what they had to do. They got the player. We lost the sweepstakes. Very tough to watch. And the Yankees need to find a way to land on their feet.
This is true. This actually kind of reminds me a little bit about Von Miller, who chose the Bills over the Rams after winning the Super Bowl. Juan Soto didn't win the World Series, though. So,
nope.
But that was a little weird. You brought it up, so I was like thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, this really feels like, because it sounds like he just wanted to play for the Mets, and it's just, I don't know. It's not something I can wrap my brain around, because it's not like
Fair,
I think the Mets are. Yeah, I just don't think the Mets are like if. I think if he went there because he loved their vision, I think he should have just gone to the Dodgers. But that's just me. I like, if you go to the Dodgers, you probably win every year. And I don't know. But then again, we talked about it, the whole living in Judge's shadow. I mean, if that's the case, that makes sense too. So I guess we'll never know. But hey, appreciate you guys for real. You stuck it out with us for a while. This is a 2-hour live stream. This is something that I want to just give a lot of credit to Gary. We put in a lot of work here trying to make sure we were holding down the fort and ready as soon as this dropped. We're very well aware this is the biggest news that we could have even talked about on this show. And while we wanted it to go differently, and I know it didn't, we appreciate this the way this show showed up and the way you guys showed out. And we'll keep you guys posted Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So appreciate you guys again, and you guys take care.
And like this video.